Hi everyone! Today we're going to read Klimt and His Cat. Gustav Klimt was born in Austria in 1862. To find out who he was, come meet his cat. Follow me into Gustav's studio. It is alive with color. Look at the paintbrushes he keeps in a vase and the reds and blues and colorful hues that spill onto the table. Today, Gustav is painting a couple in love. Over the figures, he brushes in flowers of gold, the richest of colors. Roses and flowers of all kinds are painted into his picture. Gustav is inspired by the garden that blooms outside his window. Gustav loves to paint people, so he invites models to his studio to pose for him. I snuggle up against their legs and vie for attention, but Gustav has instructed the models to stay very still while he paints. I often follow along at the museums while Gustav studies ancient art from Syria, Greece, Egypt, and even China. Gustav says that looking at the paintings and sculptures of other artists help him as an artist. To learn to do better, I must see everything, he exclaims. While splotches of swirls and shapes in golden and silver paint, Gustav creates a new style of art, different from the traditional paintings of the past. Gustav has taught me it takes courage to try something new. When he was asked to paint 3 large works for the University of Vienna, he painted what he felt using vibrant colors and shapes of all sizes. He portrayed love and life and sadness too. The university professors expecting traditional art are angry at Gustav's work. Today we are off to Italy, where we will discover new artists and see wonderful sights. I wander the streets of Venice to look for other cats, but Gustav is interested only in art. Trips to sightsee, Gustav's real travels take place inside his studio. He is transported to distant lands as he sweeps paint onto paper and details intricate patterns of circles and squares. Emily and her sisters, who own the most famous dressmaker's boutique in Vienna, often model for Gustav. They wear elaborate fashionable dresses from London, and they are always changing their clothes. Today we are going on vacation. Though we are supposed to be taking a break from our normal routine, Gustav cannot stop being an artist. Even here, he works. His favorite spot to paint is in the middle of the lake, where he is fascinated by the reflection. Back home, Gustav paints people and patterns, but on holiday, he paints nothing but landscapes. Maybe he is taking a vacation after all. When we return to Vienna, Gustav hurries back to the studio, ready to create new compositions. He has much energy to paint these days. Gustav soon returns to painting figures. I try to play with the fancy rich women who are modeling in extravagant clothes, but Gustav reminds me that they must keep still. Living with a great artist is not always easy. One afternoon, I peek over Gustav's shoulder as he sketches. I watch as the forms of a man and a woman emerge, clutched in an embrace. I already know this is going to be a masterpiece. Gustav crafts the most elaborate and delicate garments in this painting and layers on many ounces of gold as if to say, love is all the wealth you need. Gustav is loyal and generous. Last year, he learned that a local shop was going bankrupt, so he decided to help the owner by purchasing all of his art supplies there. Mostly, Gustav is full of life. I often hear him laugh, and I love to watch the vigor in his hands swirling colors together, but he is quiet at this moment. When I look up at the easel after my nap, I am surprised to see that Gustav has created a painting in a completely different style. Soft lines and gentle colors have replaced the decorative circles and squares in gold paint. Gustav died in 1918. Here are some of his paintings.
Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed the story read by Miss Jen. So as you've gathered, we are talking about Gustav Klimt. He is from Austria, that's in Europe. He lived from 1862 to 1918. One thing that's pretty cool about him is that his family used to work in gold mines, so he uses real gold in his artwork. So I want to show you two of his famous paintings. So we have the Kiss right here. This is his most famous painting, and all of this part right here, this is all real gold. And then this one down here is called the Tree of Life, and this is what we're going to be replicating today. So in his painting, you can see there are lots of different shapes, and we've got some people over here hugging, and somebody's watching, and then right here is a tree. It's really swirly. You can see some ovals and some rectangle shapes, and we're gonna just focus on the tree part in our piece. So what you'll need out of your pack is the blank piece of paper. You guys will have tissue paper that'll need to be cut up. You can just cut them. You can have your guardian cut them in just little squares. They don't have to be perfect. Mine are a different color. Yours are going to be orange and yellow, so yours will look more like gold. I got the leftovers, so mine aren't as true to the actual work. So you just pick whichever one you want to start with, and you're gonna need glue, and that's the first part. So take whichever piece of tissue paper, and you just put some glue on it. You don't want a lot of glue because then it will take a long time to dry. And then we're just gonna put them around. Try to cover up all of this white space. I like to do colors, so I don't like putting two of the same color next to each other, but if you do, then you can go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna just go like this, and you might get sticky, but I think that's part of the fun. One thing I like to do too is if you take your piece of tissue paper, you put your thumb in it, you can kind of crinkle it up like this, and then take your glue. My glue is not coming out very easy. And then just kind of pop it in there, and it gives it like some texture, so it'll look a little different. So when your piece is done, which I should show you, we're making something that looks like this. So I have a few pieces that I kind of popped up. So I'm gonna kind of pop some of those up just to make it look a little different. But if you don't want to do that, you just want to use little squares, that is perfectly fine because you're the artist. But you do want to cover the entire piece of paper with the tissue paper, because we're gonna then paint later on the tissue paper. So and I sometimes overlap them a little bit just because I think it looks cool. But once again, this is your art piece and you are the artist. So if you want to lay them all on top of each other and so they're overlapping like this, you can do that. It kind of gives it a cool effect, especially when you have some pieces that are still showing of the bottom one. I should have grabbed a different glue. That's okay. So it does take a little bit to get all of the pieces glued down, and if you wanted to, you could lay them out before, so you could say, I want to see what this will look like, and then you can put them down like this before you start to glue, so you get an idea of what your piece is going to look like. And you guys also have a third color that I didn't grab for myself, so you can really like have fun with that too and like lay it over. So I just like to make sure that all the white is covered. Sometimes I'll leave a little bit, but I think with these colors, I want to overlap it all and make it all covered up. And not every part of the paper needs to be covered with glue, because you can like spread it out with your finger. And it's kind of cool when the pieces are sticking up because it gives it more texture. So when an art piece has texture, something that you can see from far away, that kind of makes it look cool. So when they come up close to it, they'll be really amazed by what you did. I'm gonna take another piece and kind of crumple it, just for fun. And I'm just gonna put it over here because I've got some white and I just think it'll look nice. Oh, I did not stick it very well. There we go. Our phones are ringing. That's okay. So another thing you can do if maybe your glue, like mine, is kind of hard to get out, you can just take your glue and you can kind of put it around. See, even my glue is coming out, not coming out now. Put it around on the paper, this paper, and then take your little squares and just, you can put them right on. That way it's maybe a little easier. One cool thing about using little squares like this is that in his work, he uses so many different shapes. And if you wanted to, you could actually have your parent or your grandparent, whoever's helping you, cut them into different shapes, like triangles. So that way it can look maybe a little bit more like his, if you wanted to, because it's your piece, once again. So I like to overlap mine, so I'm trying to do that. So not all my squares are the same size, and I like that. A little bit more here. So I have like this little bare spot, so I'll put some more glue on there so they stick. And if it comes off the side like this, that's fine, because you're not going to paint over there anyway, so if it comes off, that's all right. I kind of like the way it looks that way. I'm just gonna, I think my glue is almost empty. And then I'm just gonna put a little bit more here and finish this up. Maybe I'll do another one of these, like right here. I've got some white spaces, and I don't like having white spaces on mine, so I'm actually even going to put some glue over the top of some of my pieces that are already on here. And then this piece is too big, so I'm just going to rip it. And I'm going to place it over here so it kind of covers up this little area. I'll rip it again and just cover up some of that space. when you tear it, it's kind of fun. It gets this like little jagged edge, which I think looks pretty cool. I got another little white space, so I'm gonna hope my glue wants to work with me. And there we go. So you will want to let this dry a little bit because if it's too wet, oh no, a little piece. If it's too wet, it's going to be hard to paint over. So you're gonna, I would say 5 minutes. It kind of depends on how much glue you use. If you weren't using a ton of glue, it's going to take less time. It just kind of depends on your own piece. We're gonna start kind of in the middle. So you're gonna need, if you're gonna make a palette, you can make a palette out of a paper plate. And you're just gonna need the burnt umber and the white for this piece. If you wanted to use other colors, you can, but these are the ones that I'm going to use. So my piece is still a little wet. It'll be okay. So I'm gonna start with the burnt umber, and I'm gonna make a Y. Just right in the middle. I'm gonna just fill it in, start my Y. So this is gonna be the base of your tree. And as you saw from his piece, it's like lots of swirls. And I'm gonna start with the roots. From this part, I'm just gonna do little squiggles. And I'm gonna just fill the bottom with roots. And if, see like this, how it doesn't connect, if you want it to, all you have to do is just dip your brush in again and then just paint over it. And if you have like a little spot where it kind of gets under, you can go the opposite direction that you think would work, and it will actually fill in all those spots. And you just go like this, little squiggles. And if you do have some pieces like I do where they're kind of sticking up a little bit, once you start getting the paint on there, it's kind of fun. It will actually put them down. It kind of acts like glue. So I'm just gonna start making little squiggles. And if you think, oh, I'm done with squiggles now, and then want to go back into them later, that's fine. So these are all the squiggles I'm gonna do for now. I might do more later. Then I'm gonna go up to this part. I'm gonna fill in my Y a little bit better because mine is a little streaky. And then I'm going to just start making swirls. And then from there, you just start making branches where you want to make branches. So I'm gonna do one off of here. I'm gonna bring it up and over and do a little squiggle, little swirl. And then some of my swirls, I'm gonna give them swirls too. Maybe I want this to be like this. You just kind of start making swirls. These are your branches. And then my trunk, I think I want it to be thicker, so I'm just gonna make it thicker. I have this habit of making all my swirls face the same direction, so I'm gonna try to make sure that I'm gonna make them go a different direction. And maybe I just want like a tiny little baby right there. And if you want, you can even make it go off the page. So that makes it look like this branch is just off over here doing its own thing. And another little swirl. And you just keep making swirls until you think your tree is done. So I think that my tree is a little bare right here, so I'm gonna add just a few little swirls. Maybe this one has a little branch coming off of it. See how it's starting to look like a tree? we started off with just a simple letter and now we have a tree. Now I'm looking at my roots and I think, oh, maybe I want this to go all the way over. Maybe I'll add a few more out here. Maybe I have some coming off of the bigger ones. Maybe I can put it over where it goes underneath this one. And it'll come out the bottom. It's kind of fun. I think I'm gonna do another swirl here. These brushes are a little thick, so you can't get a super tight swirl. That's okay. Okay, so I think I am happy with the way that mine looks. So you're gonna take your brush and you're going to dip it in your water cup. So all of that brown color is out. And then I like to do this, where I kind of put it on my paper towel so I'm sure that all that brown is out, because we're gonna go for the white next. And if possible, before you do the white, you might want to let it dry. Like, I'm a little wet right here because I went back through it. So I might wait a little bit. I'm just gonna touch it, yeah. So with the white, this is kind of the time where you can like decorate your tree. Because Klimt likes to use different shapes, I like putting like squares or maybe a triangle like on the trunk, and then doing little circles or dots in the roots. Maybe you can do some different shapes up here in these branches. Just kind of whatever you want it to be. I think I want to do squares. And I like when my paint mixes a little bit. I like this color that it gets. So if you mix paint together, that's how you get different colors. So if you wanted to do a light brown, you could actually mix them, the white and the brown together. So I'm just gonna do little squares. And I have too much paint on here, so I'm gonna wipe some of it off because it was mixed in. So I'm gonna get some of this. I'm just gonna do a little, to just do little dots. You don't even have to move your brush, you just poke it. The the roots are kind of hard to do shapes on because they're not as big as the branches are. So that's why I'm just doing dots on here. Oop, that one was a little big, that's okay. My bristles kind of made it look a little different, but I kind of like it. Make a little polka dot tree. Okay, so I'm going to rinse this off a little bit. If you find your bristles are kind of doing this and you don't want it to, if you just get it wet, it'll bring the bristles back together. So that way you can more easily tell the paint where you want it to go. So I really like triangles as a shape. I don't know if you have a favorite shape, but I do, and it's the triangle. So I'm gonna put some triangles on here. I know some people think I'm weird for having a favorite shape, but I don't think that's weird. Maybe I'll put one right here. It's another thick spot. And then I'm going to just do little polka dots. Might be able to put another little triangle in here. Then more little dots. get this little guy that went all the way off the paper. All right, so this is my tree of life. Maybe I'll add just a little bit more here. I'd like to see yours, so if you want to show me your tree of life, you can have your parent, whoever's helping you, either send it to JH Museum at jhmuseum.org, or you could post it on social media and tag us. I'd like to see everybody's artwork since we can't do this together in class. But that's all that we have. Next week, we're going to be talking about George Seurat.